So, just to ask, what is your understanding of the biblical description of what hell is going to be like? What do you know that to be?
Oh. Oh.
Hello, my brethren and sistren. We are back at it again, continuing our conversation with Trenton. This is part 5 of our conversation with Trenton. And we're going to start this one off with kind of a heater. We ended our last portion, our last segment here, with Trenton telling us that he really doesn't care that if he were to die and stand before God, that he would be judged and go to hell. Doesn't care. Doesn't bother him one bit at all. So with that being said, if you find yourself in this situation similar, what would you say? What would you do? What would be your plan? Well, we're going to see how I did. And you guys can learn from perhaps my mistakes, or you can learn from what I've said and be able to minister and serve to those people in your life. Hey, if these videos are helping you out, if they are an encouragement, if they are in any way kind of challenging you and encouraging you to get out and share the gospel with others, hit a like, share these videos with your friends, and subscribe to these so you guys can see these when they come out. And hopefully I can be more regular with getting these out. But let's get into it. See what Trenton has to say when we press him on what punishment, what God's punishment, what hell might be like.
But it started with this idea that, if even one shred of this is true, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
I don't care. I honestly accept my fate. Whatever happens, happens. I'm going to live whatever life I can live.
So, just to ask, what is your understanding of the biblical description of what hell is going to be like? What do you know that to be?
Oh, so I'm pretty sure if you steal, you repeatedly get like your hands stabbed, or like you get like your genitals poked. So like I watched this.
Where did you learn that from?
So there's this Korean girl who went to hell actually.
Okay.
And she was an artist and was able to depict all this. So like she told her story, and how you can search this up on YouTube, by the way, where Jesus came to her at night and was just like, "Come with me." And she's like, "Where are we going? Are we going to heaven?" He's like, "No, my child."
That's what I'm like, I'm going to stay here.
He's like, "Nah."
He just says that, this is not going to be good.
Yeah, and all she hears is.
Yeah, the bomb drop.
And then like they get there, and it's specific tortures. So like some people will get burned. Some people, like the cheaters, they get their like genitals like cut out.
Yep.
You get skinned. And like at the end of it, you always like heal back up, and it happens.
It happens again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not fun. Forever too.
Yeah. So not great. And if that, okay. And I'm not trying to like pigeonhole you or like really knock you over the head. I just want to make sure they're all on the same page. I don't think it's going to be that way, but that's fine if you think it's going to be that way.
I could have paused the whole conversation right there and went into some really long discussion describing what the Bible says about hell. Or I could let him keep his current understanding of hell, which already sounds pretty horrible, and continue with the conversation. This is up to you guys. You guys have to read the room. You have to be led by the Spirit and kind of see, does this conversation make sense for me to pause here and teach and kind of go into a discussion about hell or whatever the topic might be? Or can we just kind of sidestep this or step over that topic or put a pin in it and come back to it some other time when it makes sense, so that you can continue moving this conversation toward the gospel?
If that is how it works out, you're perfectly fine with.
Yeah. Because I really, truly don't believe it. I really cannot logically put 2 and 2 together. Like, my dad is the most religious person. He has tried so hard. He's in the Knights of Columbus. Like, he is a devout man. He is a devout man. But it makes no sense to me. And I couldn't sacrifice a certain portion of my life to something I can't believe.
No, I completely get it. That's why I didn't like. It wasn't like one day I'm like, okay, I'm choosing this. Like I had to answer a lot of questions.
So like I've had my faith questioned.
Yeah.
or my lack of faith.
I was gonna say, or your unfaith question.
Yeah, my lack of faith questioned a lot, but it's not going to change. Maybe it will, but right now, with my current mindset, it's not.
I'm going to be honest with you. In listening to this conversation back, doing it live and listening to it after the fact, my thoughts make me want to have potentially made different decisions. In this case, I leave the track of discussing hell and perhaps the scariness of hell or the seriousness that one needs to consider hell, and my mind latched onto that phrase that Trenton mentioned here when he said faith or Christianity just seems to be illogical to him, and he's too science minded, he's too logic minded, that it just doesn't make sense to him. And so I leave the track of punishment and hell and trying to kind of wake him up to that seriousness, and I begin to go down the track of science and logic. Now, you might make a different decision. Maybe when you go out there, you go, no, I think I need to continue down this path of talking about the seriousness of hell and how he needs to consider the seriousness of it, the direness of it. But maybe you'll be like me, where in this case, I heard logic and reason, and I wanted to make an argument for why Christianity might be reasonable rather than just blind faith. So here we go.
Where do you think we all came from, or everything came from?
Your mother. Like we all came from a mother or an egg. Or are you asking about like...
I thought that was a your mama joke. I don't know how to take that.
No. So there's theories about life. Is that what you're asking? Or
No. How about let's just go straight to like the first thing. Where do you think everything came from? The beginning of the universe and everything like that.
Probability. Everything came with two options: either is or isn't, and we is.
Was there ever a time when there was nothing?
Yes.
How did everything come out of nothing?
So, you want me to say the Big Bang Theory?
I just want you to. I don't care what you say. I mean, I care, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to push you in one direction or the other.
But honestly, I wasn't there. I don't know. And like a lot of what I would say is my faith, which is science.
Mhm.
I don't understand all science,
Right.
so I'm not sure if I can say I'm the most accurate atheist.
I don't expect you to be like super scientist,
And
man.
It's not like I'm like going up to every Christian like expecting them to like know the Bible front and back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, I think. Wait, what was the original question?
Well, where I was going with it is you were saying, hey, I'm logical, and believing in a God seems illogical. It's hard for me to put two and two together with that. So I wanted to take it to what I think is one of the holes in like an atheistic perspective. If you don't think that there's any kind of supernatural being, and yet we live in a universe that you just admitted came from nothing, what in science or logic would ever lead you to believe that anything could come out of nothing?
Okay. Well.
And it's okay to say there's nothing in science or logic that would ever explain that. I would let you have that out.
Well, the jury's out on that. I feel like we were born too soon to actually have an answer to that. Like, carbon dating can bring us back to like several billion years, but like, all I can tell you is that we are created from stardust. Okay. That is the prevailing theory of where atoms and stuff comes from. So the, I guess, original event could have come from a black hole, or just
but that would have been something, not nothing.
It would have been something, but it's like, it's a toughie. Like it is the biggest argument, where it's just like, why do we exist? All we know is that we exist, which is sad.
Yeah.
So we're just stumbling around asking for answers, not really having the right ones, fighting over which is the right answer. And honestly, I don't think it matters. The answer doesn't matter, just if you can do what is necessary. And what is necessary is for people to be productive in some way, shape, or form. Like, don't always be a consumer. Be a producer sometimes. That's awesome.
It is better to give than to receive.
Yes, and you can see people who give get more.
I like that. That's very biblical of you.
Thank you.
Guess what? There's going to be times when you have no clue what to say next, and you just need to take a pause. And in those moments, it's nice to have someone right next to you, that's your buddy, that you can say, hey, do you have any questions? And just take a breather.
Do you have any questions, Jeff? Because I think I answered. I got number one first. Let me just say this, Trenton. You've been a gentleman. Have you enjoyed this conversation thus far?
I really have. This has been intellectually stimulating, and you're a very respectable person. I hope I've been respectable.
No, you've
I
been
said some total of like 1, maybe 2 curse words.
I would say at least 1, but I don't think very many. Probably 2 at most. I would agree with you.
Yeah. So
except for the your mama joke, which was concerning, but then it turned out not to be that.
I think that was more of it came out wrong.
Yes, I didn't mean that.
I wasn't trying to say
Right.
your mama joke.
Your
I was
mother.
just trying to say, like, you came from your mother, I came from my
Yeah,
mother.
yeah,
Like, that's where we came from.
I hear you. So yeah, and I wanted to play around with that idea of, because obviously there's going to be that perspective, the atheistic or the scientific, where a lot of people like to put religion and science as against one another.
No, they're complementary.
That's the position I like to take. And so then sometimes I like to poke, kind of like what I was talking about here, like if you're really into science and you're really into logic, and that's where you're saying I'm taking a hard stance that there is no God, there's no afterlife. Yeah. Then the biggest hole I can poke is just say, well, then where did everything come from? There had to have been something outside of the known universe.
And then the biggest hole in religions is just like evolution, where it's just like we weren't just man.
Yeah.
We actually evolved from something else, which I find makes a lot more sense, where it's just like the natural selection, where it's just like the better traits win, and things change over time through genetic mutation. So we are a long series of mutations. We are mutants. From single-celled organisms, we are mutants.
Yeah, I like that.
So
would you? I know that this conversation's gone so long, but if you have time, if you're open to it, would you like to go into a little bit of a discussion on evolution? I'm no evolutionary, beautiful, wonderful mind kind of guy, but I do have questions about it.
Sure. I'm a little busy. It is finals week.
Yes, and thank you so much for your patience, and good job, at least feeling well on your economics of immigration. I got you.
All right, folks, that's where we are going to end it for today. So how do you guys think the conversation went in this episode? How do you think the conversation's gone thus far? Apparently, Trenton thinks it's been going great. He's been intellectually stimulated, I believe is what he said. But you guys can have conversations about spirituality. You can have conversations about God. You can have conversations about what God demands of people. You can have conversations about heaven and hell. You can have conversations where you challenge people about what they believe, but you can do it all in a friendly, gentle, easygoing way so that both people in the conversation are having a good time. They feel like they're both getting something out of it, and you don't feel like you're getting beat over the head, or you don't feel like you're in a fight. But we're going to continue this conversation next week. I couldn't help it, guys. I'm so sorry. And I know I'm going to speak for Jeff here. I know Jeff kind of doesn't like where I'm about to take this conversation. He kind of feels like it's kind of not fruitful, or a lot of times it won't be fruitful. But when I hear evolution, I love to ask questions. I just want to ask questions about evolution. And so that's what we're going to do. I completely forget where it goes. I just know we went into a long discussion on it. So stay tuned. Make sure you are subscribed, hitting those like buttons, and giving me some comments here. And we'll see where this conversation goes next time with Trenton. Hope you guys are walking worthy. God bless.